Rama Rama Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Granth Raj Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're going to begin our discussion of the art of work. Many people have asked me the question over and over again, how do we balance our spiritual life with all the other responsibilities that we have? And many people feel the sometimes overbearing pressure of working and also trying to keep up with the rounds and all the different duties that one has in the spiritual life. There's fast days. There are actually requirement to wake up early every day and so forth. So this is an important question, and the Ravi Shankar has his famous The Art of Living. Actually, the art of what he means by that is how to live forever in the material world. So that's not really an art, that's a curse. And the art of work is something that Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita. It's called Yoga Karma Sukhosalam. And in this verse, if you see it, okay, I'm going to put the first verse up. In the second chapter, 50th verse, Krishna actually talks about the art of work. Wait. Okay, that's good. No, there's no art of living. It's all right. Just leave it. It's okay. There's no art of living. Living in the material world is not a goal that we should strive for. We should, however, learn the art of work by which we can be like Narada Muni. We're free either in the material world or the spiritual world. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita in the third chapter that there are three types of karma. There's karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma means acting according to the Vedic principles, but there's still attachment to the result. And vikarma means acting against the principles of the Vedas, and then one gets negative reactions. When you perform karma, but there's still attachment to the result, one gets good results, but one stays in the material world. And this is the problem with most religions, not only Hinduism, but most religions. They're all about good karma. And that does not liberate a person from the material world. That can promote someone from being a third-class citizen, a third-class conditioned soul to a second-class conditioned soul, or a first-class conditioned soul, but you're still a conditioned soul. So that's not the art of work. Most ritualistic performances are meant for improving one's position in the material world. And Krishna consciousness is not so much concerned with rituals. It's concerned with developing pure love for Krishna. There's a major difference between the two. And therefore, it's very difficult for people to understand this. And the general understanding of religion is living a pious life, not harming anyone, not doing any evil, and having a good family, and having nice house and all those things, and after death, going to heaven where you continue the sense gratification. But the ultimate would be the Mormon religion, where they, when you get initiated into Mormonism, you get initiated with your whole family, and the idea is that you all go to heaven together, right? So they really emphasize family, the family, and but what is heaven? Heaven is the heavenly planets. It's not Vaikuntha, it's not Goloka. So it's a type of cheating, going up and down in the material world. Although it's cheating in the mode of goodness, rather than cheating in mode of ignorance, cheating in mode of passion. So it's a better type of cheating, let's put it like that, but it's still cheating. You're cheating yourself ultimately. So this verse, second chapter, 50th verse, and it says, a man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. So this is the key verse. If it's saying rid himself of both good and bad reactions, because both good and bad reactions keep you in the material world. They're both bad, ultimately. And this is very difficult for people to understand, especially Hindus, because the purpose of all the Vedic sacrifices, karma kanda sacrifices, is to improve one's position in the material world. And therefore, if you tell people this is a type of cheating, well, that they become bewildered. What? This is what our gurus are teaching us. How can it be cheating? You see. So therefore, it's bewildering. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also speaks about this in the Brahma Samhita. All right, we'll come to that later. Okay, we'll come back to that. So, since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. So this is what the art of work is all about. Getting out of the chained victimization of action and reaction. Good actions, good reactions and bad reactions are both part of the chain of victimization. It's not that the good reactions free you from the chain of victimization. They keep you in it. That's why the art of living is a type of cheating, or maybe the ultimate cheating. It's the cheating of the Mayavadis. The Mayavadis talk about this utopic state called Brahman, merging into the light. But actually, for Vaishnavas, that's Narak. It's hell, because there's no devotional service in Brahman. There's possibility of devotional service in the hellish planets. There's possibility of devotional service in the middle planets, like the Earth. There's a possibility of devotional service on the higher planets. There's devotional service in Vaikuntha and Goloka. There's only one place where there's no devotional service. That's the Brahman. So why would any Vaishnava want that? They consider it hell. They consider it hell. And the Mayavadis, they're glorifying it. You see. So that's why the Mayavad philosophy is the greatest cheating. And the art of living is one aspect of Mayavad philosophy. So one's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Now, here we have to make a very important point. Krishna consciousness has nothing to do, therefore, with Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or Sikhism or Jainism. It has nothing to do, because all of those religions are talking about improving yourself in a material way, not in a spiritual way. And we can see that. Look, the so-called fanatic Muslims, they are inspiring their people to go to hell, killing innocent people indiscriminately, and not in regular warfare, but in acts of terrorism. That'll get you to hell. That will not get you back to Jannat, as they hope it will. So, and the Hindu priests that are aiming for Swarga, they call that liberation. It's not liberation. So all of these things are cheating. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. So one purifies all reactions to the activity. And it's important for devotees to understand this important point. Otherwise, we all have the tendency to be attracted to good reactions, right? In fact, people come here all the time and say, "Oh, Prabhu, can you pray for me, please? My son's going to take the SAT test." Is that something to pray for, that the son passes the SAT test? How about let's pray that on the way to the SAT test, he doesn't have an accident. How about that? So which prayer is more important? He passed the SAT test. He might never make it to the SAT test, right? He could have an accident, right? So therefore, the Hare Krishna mantra is much better, because the Hare Krishna mantra is all about protecting the devotee, so he doesn't interrupt his advancement. This is called yoga and shema. Yoga and shema. Krishna explains to Arjuna, this yoga and shema has different levels of understanding. Number one level is Krishna will help you become Krishna conscious if you have an interest in hearing. If you're not interested in hearing, then it's more difficult. But Krishna gives special attention to those devotees who are regularly hearing and chanting his glories. Srinvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantak sto bhadrani vidunoti srihit satam. So today we're going to be touching on secrets, open secrets of Krishna consciousness. If you understand these open secrets, you will be easily Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So Krishna says, or Sukadeva Goswami says, to hear about Krishna from the Vedic literature, or to hear about him directly from the Bhagavad Gita. You see, no, specifically, this is in the translation, direct. What's the difference between hearing about Krishna from Vedic literature or hearing about him directly from Bhagavad Gita? Why does it say directly? Because Krishna himself is speaking the Bhagavad Gita. The Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about Krishna by great devotees. Sukadeva Goswami, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, and so forth. But Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking directly. Right? So it says to hear about Krishna from the Vedic literature, or to hear about him directly from the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna dwelling within the heart of the devotee, acts acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Now let's meditate on that. It says that, first of all, hearing about Krishna, it can be either from the Vedas or directly from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna dwelling in the heart becomes the best wishing friend of the devotee who continues constantly hearing and chanting about his glories. And what happens? He purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. So this Shravanam is given utmost importance. He mentions it twice in one sentence, and he's going to mention it many other times. And then, in this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. In other words, you don't have to go outside of yourself for knowledge. You already have it in your heart. The ultimate knowledge is to know Krishna, and Krishna is in your heart. So you don't have to go outside to find Krishna. You don't have to go to India to find Krishna. You just have to look deep into your heart, and you will find the same Krishna that you're looking for all over India or anywhere. But this is what's baffling to people. They're all looking outside. They're not looking inside. Right? It's like trying to find your keys in Marymore Park, but you lost it in the house. So you think you'll ever find it in Marymore Park? No, you'll never find it. You're miles away. So this is an interesting point, that you don't really have to go outside of yourself. It's right. The highest knowledge is right in your heart. You don't need to go to university. You don't need to go to any school. You have to know how to go deep into your heart and open the chamber where Krishna is sitting, waiting for you. And then Krishna naturally helps the devotee to develop his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna, now it's the third time he mentions hearing, as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. Okay. Then, by becoming fixed in devotional service of the Lord and developing it, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance. Now, this is the key. All of us are seriously affected by rajas and tamas. That's why there's so many arguments. That's why there's so many differences of opinion. That's why there's so much speculation. That's why there's so much disloyal competition. That's why there's so much violence. That's why there's so much sexual abuse. All these things are due to rajas and tamas. So these things cause a lot of trouble. In fact, cause all the trouble in life. And here's the way to get free of it. By developing our devotional service, and number one, Shravanam, hearing. Regularly hearing. And this is the hardest thing for most people, to hear. To speak, it's easy. You know, everybody's speaking all blah, blah, blah all the time, right? But to hear is extremely difficult because it requires equilibrium of the mind. Meaning the mind has to be peaceful in order to hear effectively. But if the mind is completely seized by desires, so many desires, and changing all the time, and then envy, that only increases desires, right? It doesn't decrease it. When you're envious of someone else, it only increases desires. So what happens? Krishna one and Advaita. Let's not throw stool into the sweet rice. Okay? So let's play 12 feet, Krishna, 1, and Mayapur also, 12 feet. Advaita can stay where he is. Krishna too can stay where he is. No, the other way, Mayapur. You have to come this way, 12 feet. 12 feet, that way you'd be right next to Krishna 1. Yeah, very good. Okay. So this hearing leads to devotional service, and devotional service opens up the door to knowledge, innate knowledge, innate, I-N-N-A-T-E, meaning knowledge within. It's not outside. And then, by continuing the hearing from Bhagavatam and from devotees, and developing, getting fixed in devotional service, then, and in other words, the word is fixed in devotional service, it means highly regulated. Highly regulated. I remember when different people were getting initiated by Radhanath Swami, we had a little meeting with each couple. I remember saying that, having them promise that they would come at least every Saturday and Sunday to the full morning program. And they all said, yes, I will. But actually, very few people come. Very, very few people come. So you have to keep your word. And what's the whole purpose? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. That's the whole purpose. Okay, you're going to work every day, but at least Saturday and Sunday, you should come. You know, and hear and chant and have, you know, nice darshan and so forth. So then when one becomes fixed in devotional service, then one is freed from lust and anger and greed, or rajas and tamas. The concomitant factors of rajas and tamas is lust and greed in rajas, and tamas, anger and envy and madness and illusion. So one becomes free of these things. You become free of those things, then you come to the mode of goodness and you begin to learn. But it's only the beginning stage. You know, that's not the goal, to stay in the mode of goodness. It's only the beginning stage. It's the first step in the spiritual life. Because even the mode of goodness is a conditioning of the living entity. One has to rise above the mode of goodness, the transcendental goodness. Then you become Krishna conscious. So just coming to the mode of goodness is not the goal. It's a stepping stone. But necessary, because you can't understand anything in the mode of passion and ignorance. Not one thing will any of us understand in the modes of passion and ignorance. Not one thing about spiritual life. It's only when we come to the mode of goodness, and it has to be sustained goodness, that we begin to get educated. And then lust, avarice are diminished. It's not that they're completely eradicated, but they're diminished. And when these impurities are wiped away, now as you keep going on and on and on and on, eventually they get wiped away, and then one becomes steady in the position of pure goodness. Ah, that's what we want. Steady in the position of pure goodness. In other words, you want to have the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness, you just memorize these 5 verses. First canto, 2nd chapter, verse 17 to 21. You just memorize these verses. First canto, 2nd chapter, verses 17 to 21. You just learn these verses. I've been trying to learn these verses for the last 48 years. I'm still working on it, right? I knew how to quote these verses 40 years ago, but I cannot say that I understand them yet. I'm trying to understand, right? Every word in the translation of these verses has huge, huge spiritual significance. And the reason I'm having trouble understanding it, I have not progressed enough to be able to understand what it's saying. Right? Although I can read it, I know what each word means, but to actually understand it and realize it is a different thing. So now, we get to the point of sustained transcendental goodness, or pure goodness. And at that point, one becomes enlivened by devotional service. That's a key word, enlivened. In other words, you become excited. Just like people get enlivened by going to the casino. They get enlivened by going to the beach in Mexico or Hawaii. You know, they get enlivened by these things. Now we get enlivened by devotional service. But that's after becoming very steady and free from lust, greed, anger, illusion, all these things, passion and ignorance, and becoming very fixed in hearing and regulated in devotional service. Then these impurities are wiped away. We become steady in the position of pure goodness. We become enlivened by devotional service, and at that point, one understands the science of Krishna consciousness perfectly. So you see, we're all very far away from this exalted position. But we're on the path. One time, one devotee was complaining about the other devotees. Oh, they're not very advanced, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, no, all my devotees are perfect. But what remains is to increase the perfection of their perfectness. So the position is perfect, right? Accepting Guru, bona fide Guru, and taking initiation, and chanting. All that is perfect. The position is perfect. What remains is perfecting the perfectness. That means, what is perfecting perfectness? What we're reading right now. This is what he was aiming at. So then, one begins to understand perfectly the science of Krishna. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs. Severs means cuts, right? Severs the hard knot of material affection. Now, most people say, what? What's wrong with affection? The key word is material affection, right? Nothing wrong with affection, but material affection. Well, what does it mean by material affection? Well, material affection is you scratchy my backy, I scratchy your backy. But you don't scratchy my backy, I don't scratchy your backy. So that's material affection. And this is something that everyone experiences when there's a material affection. If for any reason there's some breakdown, communication breakdown, or whatever, then the material affection turns into material hatred very easily. Say, in other words, someone will say, oh, wait a minute, you know, I've been washing the dishes, I've been cooking, I've been cleaning the laundry, ironing the laundry, and I don't get anything in return. I don't get any appreciation for what I'm doing. Therefore, I want a divorce. You see, there has to be scratchy my backy, scratchy your backy, right? You don't scratch my back, I don't scratch your back. So that is material affection. But spiritual affection is a different thing. Aslisyava padaratan pinastamam adarsanam marmahato karotava yata tatava vidatu lampato mat prananatas to savanaparaha. Yeah. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So, in spiritual life, the affection is based on unconditional affection. There's no scratchy my backy, I scratchy you backy. No, it's I scratch your back, and you don't have to scratch my back, and I'm perfectly satisfied with Krishna by serving you. It's the service itself that satisfies me. I don't need any reciprocation. But of course, for someone like that, Krishna will be always looking for a way to reciprocate with his devotee. But the devotee is not asking for reciprocation. The devotee is simply interested in service. So that's a position of liberation, and that's the art of work. But it's very difficult to understand because everything we do is in terms of reciprocal return. We want a return on our investment, right? If there's no return on investment, then we don't do anything. You know, we just hold on to our money. We won't invest it. But if we can get a return, then we'll invest. So the devotee is not like that. That's why, in many places, Prabhupada says, it's better to be poor than to be rich in devotional service. And basically that's what happens. If someone goes all the way in renunciation, they give everything away. And they're supposed to keep a vow of poverty. In other words, they don't have any big bank balance. They don't have anything. So if you look at this, at the Goswamis, did they have any material assets by the time they surrendered to Lord Chaitanya? Zero. They gave it all away. Did they try and accumulate material assets? No. What is the proof? When they did get major donations to build temples, they didn't even live in the temples. They kept living underneath the trees. And a different tree so they don't get attached to it every night. So this is, unbelievable. But it's true. So the material life is the story of going from rags to riches. And spiritual life is the story of going from riches to rags. Voluntarily, not forced. Material life, you can go from rags to riches and then be forced to go back to rags again by circumstances. But the devotee voluntarily does it. So what does it mean, rags? It means that one, at a certain point in their spiritual life, downsizes voluntarily. Why? To gain more time for spiritual life. You have to downsize many unwanted things. They're called anarthas. And that's part of the devotional process, is anartha nivritis. Yeah, it's pure cleaning away all unwanted things that are hindrances to constant practice of devotional service. And then it says it severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead, without any doubts. Because for the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor the next. Right? Agyas chasadhanasya samsayatma vinasyati. Nayam lokasti na paro na sukham samsayatmanaha. A very nice verse in the 4th chapter, last verse, or almost the last verse, which says that but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So the technique of the material world is to put doubts in your mind about Krishna, about devotional service, about ISKCON, about Prabhupada, about this, about that. Say, like for example, just on the news 2 nights ago, Shepard Smith on Fox News said, if you're living in Seattle, immediately leave. There's going to be a huge earthquake. The big one is coming. And all the seismologists are predicting it's going to happen. And the entire city of Seattle is going to be wiped out. Seattle, Portland, from Vancouver down to Northern California, they're all going to be wiped out. At least, 20, 30 miles inland is going to be wiped out completely. And then he went through all this gobbledygook about this tectonic plate is moving and another tectonic plate is crashing into it and it's going to be a huge, the big earthquake is coming. He's telling people on the evening weather report, get the heck out of Seattle right away. Does that make sense? Say, well, to them it does, but he's trying to create panic in the minds of the Seattle residents, right? That there's going to be a huge thing, and at least 15, 20, 30 million people are going to die. Right? And there's going to be a huge tsunami that's going to blow away Japan, right? And Korea. Oh, that'll be one way of getting rid of Kim Jong-un. Because, hey, you know, that'll be good. Seattle will cause a big tsunami. So you see the problem here, doubts. People put doubts in it. Back in the 1970s, the devotees were freaked out. They said, Prabhupada, California is going to fall into the Pacific Ocean. There's not going to be any temple in Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego. Or, you know, we got to, you know, go out to the Sierra Nevada mountains. You know, Prabhupada just looked at her like they were crazy. And he said, we are not afraid. He said, but if you chant nicely, then nothing will happen. Right? They were ready to sell all the temples and move out into the mountains. You see how crazy people are? No, we should double down on preaching. That's the only protection we have. Not moving away. Just like there was one man, I was living in Baghdad. And he went to see an astrologer, and the astrologer said, oh, you better leave Baghdad right away. He said, why? He said, oh, Shaitan is coming here to take you. You're going to die. Leave immediately. The man said, okay. So he left. He went to Samarkand, somewhere, you know, Afghanistan or one of those countries. So Shaitan came, and he was looking for that guy. Actually, no, he was looking for someone else. And he met the astrologer. And so the astrologer said, oh, why, are you looking for so-and-so? He said, oh, not yet. I'm looking for this other guy. He said, oh, okay, yeah. He said, no, I'm going to find so-and-so in Samarkand next week. In other words, it's called fake news. The astrologer gave the wrong information to the wrong guy, right? And the person he should have told to get out of Baghdad, he didn't tell him. He told the wrong guy, who was supposed to go to Samarkand to die. And Shaitan, meaning the devil, is going to meet him there, and he's going to get this other guy first in Baghdad. So, you see, putting doubts in people's minds is the way you can control them. Control them to do what? To stay in the material world. We should dispel our doubts by Krishna consciousness. And that's exactly what happens by advancing in Krishna consciousness. At a certain point, all our doubts go away. Asamsayam, samagramam. And we become unwavering in our devotional service. So it takes time to get to that position. And therefore it says, therefore only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. So in other words, we should never try and speculate to understand the science of Krishna. So now we're going to go forward. You put the next verse on. Is it the 4th chapter, 41st verse? 41. Yeah, okay. Yoga sanyasta karmana jnana sanchina samsayam atmavantam nakarmani nibbandhananti dhananjaya. So the first verse, 250, was about yoga karma sukoshalam, the art of work. Now we're going to go deep into understanding how to achieve this art of work, meaning action without any reaction, but only spiritual benefit. Not good reaction, not bad reaction, but spiritual benefit. Okay. So this verse, 441, explains that one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. So what's the key here? Whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge. So that is essential. Everyone has doubts in their mind, you know, and we create them ourselves, or by associating with people, they transfer their doubts to our mind, right? And that's what makes us waver in devotional service. It makes our determination to advance very weak by hearing other people's doubts or speculating ourselves and developing doubts. Just like some, fly-by-night news weather guru is telling people in Seattle, leave immediately. 2 days ago, he said, leave immediately. There's going to be disaster in Seattle. Now, that's creating panic amongst people. It's putting a doubt in your mind. Oh, he's right, I should move, you know. Where are you going to move? You're going to live in St. Louis? In St. Louis, there's the flooding of the Mississippi all the time. You're going to live in New Orleans? There's flooding in New Orleans. You're going to live in Houston? I mean, the whole city was flooded. Right? So where are you going to move? You know, you're going to go to New York City, there are terrorist attacks all the time. You're going to go to Washington, D.C., there's murder in the streets all the time. Baltimore is the most violent city now in the United States. Chicago is right up there with Baltimore, right? So where are you going to go? You know, better stay in Seattle and die chanting Hare Krishna. You know, at least we're forewarned now. So at least we know we don't have long to live. So let's just double down on chanting and, make the best of a bad bargain. Right? Just like Maharaj Parikshit knew what was going to happen to him. So he knew what he had to do. He got the advice. Just sit down and listen, carefully, Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee, and ask questions and discuss and become convinced. Let all your doubts be eradicated. So one who follows the instruction of Bhagavad Gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. So this self-knowledge makes you free from the bondage to action. Now, we're going to take a tangent here and understand what self-knowledge actually means. It's a very big concept, and it's not, knowing, your wardrobe or knowing what size your foot is, or that's not self-knowledge. Self-knowledge means, one, you know the difference between your soul and the temporary body covering. Two, you know the difference between Paramatma, who is present in the heart of every living entity, and you, or me, the little soul, who's only present in this body. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what Budget Creeper is thinking right now. He doesn't know what I'm thinking, right? I don't know, what pains or pleasures you have in your body. I'm just aware of the pains and pleasures in my body, right? But Krishna knows everybody. And he's in everybody, as Paramatma. So there's a major difference between me and Krishna. Just because he's in my body doesn't mean he's me, or I am he, right? He's a transcendental person. I'm not, I'm in this body, but I'm not transcendental. I'm conditioned by the body. Krishna is not conditioned by the body. So that's the second step of self-realization. The third step is understand that Paramatma, the Jivatma, and the entire material creation, with all the living entities, are coming from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Aham Sarvasya Prabhava Matak Sarvam Pavartate Iti Matva Bhajante Maham Buddha Bhava Samanvita. Somebody who knows Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead engages eternally in his service. So, if we actually know who Krishna is through the step-by-step process of self-realization, then we will be engaged full-time in Krishna's service. Right? That's what self-realization means. Self-realization, like I said, doesn't mean you know what car you like or what type of cake you like to eat, or it's nothing like that. You know you're not this body. You know you're not Paramatma, but you're the servant of Paramatma. You know that even Paramatma and you and all the incarnations and the whole material creation and time and the laws of material nature and the modes of material nature, they're all coming from Krishna and they're all controlled by Krishna. That's called real self-realization. The Mayavadis don't get to full self-realization. They get only to a partial self-realization. That's why they're prone to fall down. And the mystic yogis, even though they can become as powerful as Durvasa Muni, they also fall down because they don't have full knowledge of self-realization. There's the self with a small s and the self with a big S. The self with a big S is Krishna. The self with the small s, it's all of us, including Durvasa Muni, including so many people, including Brahma, including Shiva, Lord Shiva, and all the Devatas. So that is real self-realization and not partial self-realization. So therefore, when one comes to that, to a point where all one's doubts about spiritual life, about self-identity, about self-realization are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, then one is situated factually in the self. Then you become a real person at that point. Until then, we were not real people. We were pretending to be someone, but we were not that person. Now we're a real person, and thus we're no longer bound by the reactions of work. So that's the subject today. Yoga karma sukoshalam, not being bound by any reaction of work. So next verse. So next verse, 18.9, is that the one? Next one? It says, Karyam iti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate rijana sangam tyakva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko mataha. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. 18.9. So, here it's talking about performing duty, not because of some remuneration or some return, but because it ought to be done. This says everything we do in life should be according to this principle. We should perform our duty without any expectation in return, because it should be done, it ought to be done, right? So, one can be married. It's like some person was speaking to me, and they said, "Oh, there's no love between me and my husband now, between my husband and I anymore." I said, "Oh, you're lucky." She said, "What?" I said, "You're very lucky, because why should there be any mundane material affection? It's just an obstacle to spiritual life." I said, "However, you should never be separated." He said, "Well, because I mean, how was that?" I said, "Because you have to act out of duty, right? Just like Krishna's asking Arjuna to do his duty. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to kill Bhisma, Pitama, Dronacharya, even Duryodhana, or any of those people. He doesn't want to do that. Why? Because of mundane material attachment. What happens when you become situated steadily in devotional service? It says that the hard knot of material affection is severed. But it doesn't say the relationship is severed. It says the hard knot of material affection is severed, because material affection holds us back from doing our duty to serving Krishna. Just like when Krishna was in Dwarka, every morning he would wake up in the Brahma Muhurta. And Rukmini would be not very pleased. She wanted to stay in bed with him. But he would wake up and immediately begin his sadhana. Not that he needed to do any sadhana. His sadhana, he was meditating on himself. It's because he is God, right? Don't you and I, we should not meditate on ourselves. We should meditate on Krishna. But Krishna would meditate on himself because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Rukmini didn't, she wasn't so pleased. She wanted her husband to stay in bed with her. But he would get up right away and out the door. Had too many important things to do. So, this is duty, right? Not breaking the relationship, but acting out of duty. Now, you have to understand what this means. It's a very big concept. Like, let's say, a husband and wife having problems, so they go to a marriage counselor, and then marriage counselor listens to the husband. Oh, she did this, she did that, she said this, she said that, blah, 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 blah. And then he listens to the wife. Oh, he did this, he did that, and he did that, and then finally, after hours and hours of he did this, she did that, he said, it's better you get divorced. Right? But no, that's not Krishna conscious. It's a question of duty. Like, for example, when you get married, there's no difference between the marriage ceremony and the initiation ceremony. They're the same ceremony. The same mantras are said, right? Om, Aganya, Timarandasya, and so forth. The same mantra, same fire, same, swaha, swaha. So, what's the difference? They're both vows. And they're both vows, and you have to keep them. They're sacred vows. You can't say, oh, I made a mistake. No. There's no question of divorce in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada has written many, many statements on this point about there's no question of divorce. Why? Because you make a sacred vow in front of the deities and then you're going to break it? Well, that's like breaking the vow of initiation. Right? No matter how bad the situation is, there might be separation. Just like Sita was separated from Ram. Did Ram marry somebody else? No. Did Sita marry somebody else? No. They stayed loyal to each other. And actually they were experiencing what's called Vipralamba Bhava, transcendental love in separation, which is even more powerful than love in proximity. However, they both did their duty. He managed the kingdom properly, and she raised the boys, Lava and Kush, to be pure devotees. And they stayed loyal to each other. So we have to be careful not to be influenced by common law or common usage. Just like, oh, well, my grandmother and grandfather, they stayed married, but then my father and mother, they stayed married. But now we're living in a different world now. It's a modern world. We're much more advanced in science and technology and communication. And so I'm getting a divorce. Oh, wait a minute. That's not being advanced. That's going backwards to farther back than the caveman. Back to the animals, right? To the monkeys. Monkeys have, 50, 60 girlfriends. The alpha monkey. So, you're going back to the monkey age, not even to the Paleolithic age. So, there's no advancement there. Yeah, maybe there's a cell phone, Apple cell phone, 35 now, right, in the future. But you've gone back to the monkey age with this divorce and separation, and this is X1, this is X2, I'm on my X12, You know, that's a bad, you know, just like they have these medals, you know, when you're in the army, you know, you went to this battle, that battle, and now people have, you know, 45 X's, you know, that goes from their shoulder down to their abdomen, you know. It's a bunch of nonsense. We don't accept that. There's no question of divorce. There's a question of doing your duty. And people don't get this clear in their mind, but we're going to discuss it, because here it's right here in the verse today, where it says, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, because there was no gun to someone's head, get married to this person, otherwise you're dead. No, you did it voluntarily. You took the vows voluntarily. And initiation also, we did it voluntarily. Then from that point on, we have to follow dutifully all the rules and regulations. And if there's some discrepancy, we make up for it. And get advice and good association and continue. And in the purport it says, prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. What are the modes of work? You can work in a mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. This is a very good verse for all of us. Now we're getting into the real gulab. Right. 18th chapter, 9th verse. This should be the verse everyone focuses on. And it's got a really short purport, so it should be within the grasp of everyone. The purport is only, what, 3 or 4 sentences. Right? It's not one of these long purports, 5, 8 pages. It's 3 or 4 sentences. But if you understand this verse and purport, you become way more advanced than you ever imagined. It says, a man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory, in other words, you have a factory job every day, but you're Krishna conscious, does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. So he doesn't say, if you're working in a factory, immediately give up your job and go on welfare and live in the temple and chant Hare Krishna. He didn't say that. He said, you can work in a factory. And, he says, but you don't really associate yourself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. Does that mean you go to a factory and you sleep in the toilet or something? No. It means that you're not taking part in the culture of the people, because you have your own culture. But you're working in a cooperative way, in a productive way, and even harder than normal people would work, so that you can protect your relationship with Krishna. Because you need a certain amount of money, and you have to earn it honestly. And if you can't earn it any other way than working in a factory or working in an office, so be it. But you don't associate with the people. That means, yeah, you talk to them, you say hello, how are you? And what's our assignment today? Like, yeah, you do all the normal functions. But, you know, when they say, well, let's sit down and, you know, we'll have a beer and talk about this. No, I'm sorry, I don't drink beer. But you can give me some hot milk. What's the matter, you sick? No, I'm not sick. I don't drink beer, I don't drink coffee. Really? You don't drink coffee? I mean, this is Seattle. This is you know, Starbucks. You know, no, sorry, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea. You don't drink? You're Indian. You don't drink tea? It comes from your country. I said, no, that's the British planted it there. We didn't. We weren't into tea. You know. What do you guys drink then? You know, milk. Oh no, I thought you were a vegan. No, I'm not a vegan. I'm a lacto-vegetarian. That's evil. Well, in your eyes, but for me it's good. You know? So you see, we have a different culture. But that doesn't mean we can't associate with these people professionally, but not socially. And our purpose is different than their purpose. Their purpose is to get money for sense gratification. Our purpose is to get money, and everything above our minimum we use in Krishna's service. And what is our minimum? Our minimum keeps decreasing over time. It doesn't keep increasing. Whereas their minimum always is increasing. Right? They're putting the bar up higher and higher. But the devotee is satisfied with minimum. And that way they're healthier. More people have died by overeating than undereating. More people have died by oversleeping than undersleeping. You know? So, yeah, the devotee is not in the competition for sense gratification. The devotee is in competition for vairagya, vairagya vidya, this renunciation through knowledge, vairagya vidya, and yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means directing all your activities toward pleasing Krishna. So, if you are very good at sales and you use your salesmanship expertise to also distribute Prabhupada's books, there you have dovetailed your expertise into Krishna consciousness. Or if you're good at computers and you can use your expertise to have a really nice web page or advertisement for festivals or whatever, fine. Then you used your talent in Krishna consciousness. Whatever talent you have, if you can use it in Krishna's service, that's the perfection of your life. And it takes time to develop talent. It can take people many, many years to develop a certain talent. But if you use that in Krishna's service, that's the perfection of your life. Okay, so then he simply works for Krishna, and when he gives up the result for Krishna, he's acting transcendentally. So if you make a pledge, I pledge to give so much money for the mortgage of the temple before the end of this year, and you don't give it, well, then you're not acting transcendentally. You might be working transcendentally. No meat, no eggs, no fish. And you might be thinking transcendentally, but you're not living transcendentally because you're not keeping your word. Right? It can be your word of marriage, it can be your word of initiation, it can be your word of your pledge, whatever it is. But you have to keep your word. That defines who you are. And when a person actually, as it says here, he simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he's acting transcendentally. So giving up the result is what the hard part is. Yes, like one time, Prabhupada was speaking to this Dr. Patel in Bombay, and he said, you know, so many poor children come to our temple, and we give them some prasadam, but it would be very nice if we could give them nice new clothes, new dhoti, new kurta. He said, Dr. Patel, he said, you're doing very well financially. Why don't you donate for? You can buy so many nice dhotis, kurtas, and we'll give it out to the children. He said, Prabhupada, he said, I don't have any money. He said, what? You don't have any money? He said, no, I don't have any money. He said, you're a doctor? He said, yeah, I'm a doctor, but I don't have any money. He said, don't people pay you? He said, yeah, they pay me, but I don't have any money. He said, well, who has the money? It's my wife. She has all the money. He said, but she is your wife. He said, no, the money is hers. I'm her husband. Now, you know, this guy's complete nonsense. You know, it's on the tape. You can hear it. You know, it's the conversation they had, you know, in their morning walks. It's complete nonsense, right? He's saying, I don't have any money. My wife has all the money. You know, that's a lie. It's not true. But you see, although he could quote many verses from Bhagavad Gita, and he could sustain a long discussion of philosophy with Prabhupada, right? Not that he was really adding anything to the conversation. The whole conversation was Prabhupada making important points. He was just asking some questions or saying something stupid every once in a while, and Prabhupada would correct him. However, he's not acting transcendentally. Acting transcendentally means when you give up the result for Krishna, then you're acting transcendentally. See? But to give up the result is very difficult for most people, because you have to have faith. You have to have faith that the more you give, the more Krishna will help you. Why shouldn't he? If someone is helping you, let's say you have a company and you have one worker who's like a superstar, you know, he's bringing in, just like this Moroccan guy named Moulali. He was working for Boeing. He brought in hundreds of millions of dollars of orders to Boeing from Arabic countries and all over Europe also, you know. But then there was some kind of argument and there was some kind of dispute, and he quit. This man was bringing in so many orders, right? He quit. Then he went, I think he worked for Ford and brought Ford up tremendously. They were having a lot of trouble at that time, and he made them one of the leading car companies in the world again. And then I think at one point, I think he went to Airbus also at one point, you know, and was doing a lot of damage to Boeing. So you see, if there's someone that's very valuable, you don't discourage them, you encourage them, you know, to keep doing good, right? So if we are keeping our vows to Krishna, don't you think Krishna's going to take care of us? Obviously. He's going to do everything so that we continue doing well in devotional service. And devotional service means that when a person gives up the result of their work to Krishna, at that point they're acting transcendentally. At that point you're above the reactions of work, because that doesn't mean you can steal and give it to Krishna and you're okay. No. But there's going to be a reaction, just like that devotee in Bhadrashram in South India. He stole money from a Muslim king to build a temple for Lord Ramachandra, Sita Ram, right? Huh? Ramdas, yeah, Ramdas. So he still had to go to jail. You know, and he was going to stay in jail until the money got paid back. So Lakshmana and Ram came and bailed him out, right? But he was in jail for a considerable amount of time, I think, you know. So it's not that the reaction is not going to be there. There's going to be a reaction. But Krishna will save his devotee. Right? But we should not try and imitate that. Just like, was it Yamunacharya he built? I think it was him. He had these dacoits ripping off people in South India to build a temple in was it Srirangam or somewhere else? Huh? Not Srirangam, yeah. And then when he finished, he killed them. Was it Yamunacharya or somebody else? Somebody, yeah, it's another Alvar. Yeah, he killed them. Why? Because they would go on doing that, you know. And he was not. He wanted to get the temple built, but he didn't want, you know, to have a whole class of highly trained dacoits ripping people off and killing them and taking their money. So no, we don't want to get into a situation like that. We want to act nobly, always, honestly, but we should give the results to Krishna, and then we're acting transcendentally. So then the next verse, 18:12. Anistam istam mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavati adya ginam pretya natu sanyasinam kvachit. For one who has not renounced the three fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. Now, there's a very nice verse also in the 18th chapter that says, and you're going to like hearing this, it's glorifying the grihastas. And Prabhupada says, he says, there are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place. And whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work, for what purpose fruits should be renounced. So, he's calling you sannyasis. If you work in an office or a factory, and he says, there are many members of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. And now, so the next verse is the one we're reading now. It says, for one who is not renounced the three fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So this is the point. See, over and over again, now we're taking different verses from the Bhagavad Gita on the same thread. The thread is, there's such a thing as akarma, working in this world without any reaction, neither good or bad, but simply transcendental benefit. You get eternal life in the spiritual world, but you don't even have to go to the spiritual world because you're free wherever you are by virtue of this art of work. And there are no threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed. And they accrue after death. So if a person is not renounced, then these three things accrue: good, bad, and mixed reactions. Therefore, he does not have to enjoy or suffer the results of his acts after death. So if we're interested in getting free now, not after death, now, being free right now, we can do it if we learn this art of work. So we'll do one more verse, and I'm going to stop because we are cooking special feast for tonight. And I will discuss that in a second. This is one of those transcendental gourmet feasts. Next verse is 18:13, right? Panchaitani mahabaho karanani nibodame sankye kritante proktani siddhaye sarvakarmanam. O mighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all actions. Of all action. Now learn of these from me. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nilamadava Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitanamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pachani Nivasesa Sunyavani Paskati Satani. Okay, so now Prabhupada says, a question may be raised that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that the person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reactions of work? Nice point. The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. He says that there are 5 causes for all activities, and for success in all activity, one should consider these 5 causes. Sankhya means the stock of knowledge, and Vedanta is the final stock of knowledge accepted by all leading acharyas. Even Sankara accepted Vedanta Sutra as such. Therefore, such authority should be consulted. The ultimate control is invested in the Supersoul, and it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivistaha. He is engaging everyone in certain activities by reminding him of his past actions. And Krishna conscious acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction, either in this life or in the life after death. Okay, so the 2 major points in the last paragraph, he says, Krishna is engaging everyone in certain activities by reminding him of his past actions. In other words, the unfulfilled desires that we had in a previous life are revealed to us by Krishna in this life. Then we have to be educated in Krishna consciousness enough not to be attracted by them. In other words, there's a stock of desires from our previous life that are going to be revealed to us as we mature. It begins at puberty and then it continues. And unless we have what I would call the safety net of Krishna consciousness, we will succumb to them. We will give in to them. And it's like our previous karma is coming toward us like a Mack truck that's out of control. You know, it's going to bang us, you know, with these desires that we had in our previous life. And unless we have Krishna consciousness to buffer us, we will just be carried along with the tsunami of those desires and continue the same route that we had in the previous life. So that's one point. And then he says, and Krishna consciousness acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction. So his direction from within, in other words, Krishna is in our heart, and he will reveal to us how to please him. How does he reveal to us how to please him? Through the spiritual master. Right? And that is also explained in the 18th chapter, 57th and 58th verse, which we'll look at real quick, because there are 2 sources working in sync or together. There's Paramatma and there's the bona fide spiritual masters. So Krishna says, in all activities just depend upon me and work always under my direction. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So, 1, we should depend upon Krishna. This is 1857. 2, we should always work under his protection. Well, if you're following the rules and regulations and chanting, then Krishna will protect you. Why? What is the meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Prabhupada explains this. In fact, we read this almost every morning. Prabhupada says, in the explanation he gives to the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, he says, these 3 words, namely Hare, Krishna, and Rama, are the transcendental seeds of the Maha Mantra. The chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, or Srimati Radharani, to give protection to the conditioned soul. That's the meaning of the mantra. To give protection to the spirit soul, to the conditioned soul. So what's the one thing we really need? Protection, right? Everyone has to protect themselves. So they get life insurance, and then they get car insurance, and then they get house insurance, and then they get special insurance for their cell phone, and then they get, I don't know, cat insurance, dog insurance. They're getting all kinds of insurance because they want to be protected. And then you have, 911, right? And then you can go and get a gun to protect yourself. And so many things. You get special locks, and you get alarms, and security systems, and you have passwords, and all this for protection, right? And we're still not protected, even with all those things, right? However, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. We're praying for protection. And who can protect us better than Krishna, right? So, and we're asking Krishna, not directly, we're asking through Srimati Radharani, Hare Krishna, right? So it says here that the chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara. Hara means Srimati Radharani. And it's Hare in the vocative. Vocative means, if you ever study Sanskrit or you study Latin, these are highly declined and conjugated languages. So the vocative means to someone. Like, for example, Hare means we're addressing Srimati Radharani. And then Krishna means we're directly speaking, we're asking him. But we're asking him through Srimati Radharani. So the Hara becomes Hare, because it means to Radharani. Just like if you say, I took my donation to the treasurer. Well, to the treasurer is a vocative, right? It shows transitive action, transporting an action to someone. Okay, so we're going to Krishna through Srimati Radharani to give protection to the conditioned soul. The chanting is exactly like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. Mother Hara helps the devotee achieve the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna. And the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. So, he protects us, and he reveals himself. Yoga and Shema. Shema means protection. Yoga means he's revealing himself to us. So, you have unlimited benefits by chanting Hare Krishna. And now, when one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matpara is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. 1857. And then the next verse, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. What's the cause of mental disturbance? Anxiety. What's the symptom of a devotee? Freedom from anxiety. Why? Because he only acts according to the order of Krishna. And how does he know what Krishna is ordering? It comes through the disciplic succession down through bona fide gurus, Siksha and Diksha gurus. He always looks after his friend's comfort, meaning Krishna looks after his devotee's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend, who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He is already under stringent material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So that's the whole story right there. We get certain inspiration from within, but it should be confirmed by bona fide spiritual masters. Otherwise, we could be misled. Okay, so the ultimate control is invested in the super soul, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Sichaham Hridi Sanivista. He is engaging everyone in certain activities by reminding him of his past actions. And Krishna consciousness acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction either in this life or in the life after death. So we should connect to the inner network with Krishna, the Krishna network. Otherwise, we'll be connected to the desires we had, unfinished desires we had from the previous life, and that'll just get us into more entanglement in this life. So we can overcome that by following Krishna's order. And what is Krishna's order? Well, he says, 18th chapter, 68th verse, and he says, Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhakti sabidasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mam ivasyasya samsaya nacha tasman manusyesu kaschid me priya kritama bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret, meaning Bhagavad Gita, to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. Why does he say supreme secret? Because to understand pure devotional service is a secret. Almost nobody understands this. All these great Sanskrit scholars, they think good works is religion. And that's not true. transcendental activity meant only to please Krishna is true spirituality. So there's a difference between good works and transcendental activity. Was Arjuna acting good by killing so many people? Yes. Even though many of those people were his own family members. But they were following the path of Adharma, and Arjuna was following the path of Krishna. There's a major difference. To understand that requires a lot of purification. Otherwise, it's very easy to think, oh, Arjuna is being violent, and Krishna is a violent God. We don't believe in violence, we believe in non-violence, right? You believe in non-violence? Someone's choking your wife, you're going to remain non-violent? You're going to remain non-violent, Prabhu? You're going to remain non-violent? No, of course not. It's nonsense. No, oh, please don't choke my wife. You know, yeah, it was just ignore you. No, there is justified violence, but there's also unjustified violence. So this requires a lot of intelligence to understand. So there's no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So if you learn Bhagavad Gita correctly, and you live it, and teach it, then you become more dear to Krishna. So, but to learn Bhagavad Gita correctly means you have to sacrifice. It's not easy to sacrifice. Arjuna sacrificed everything for Krishna. Are we ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna? I bet if I went around the room, everyone would say, well, I want to, but. Well, keep your butt. No, there's a but. There's yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. So, yeah, that's the problem. But we can overcome it. It's just a sign of material affection, which is the greatest knot that's holding us back. It's very difficult to overcome material affection, but it's possible through Krishna consciousness. So we'll continue again tomorrow on the art of work. This is a very big subject, but because it has a very big reward, right? So no great thing is achieved by little efforts. It requires a great effort, but you get a great result. You're liberated now, not you have to wait till you die to get liberated. You're liberated now. And once you're liberated now, then you can do things in the same spirit as Srila Prabhupada, spreading this movement dynamically, having tremendous, let's say, impact on society. So we'll think about this seriously. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Yeah.
That's 1865. This is 1868. Right?
Yeah.
So 1865 also Manmana Bhava.
Well, yeah. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. If you do this, I promise you, you will come back to me because you become very dear to me. Yeah, definitely. Everything is leading to the same point, pure devotional service.
I have a question. 1813, the one which we discussed about the 5 causes.
Yes.
That didn't explain all 5 causes.
We're going to do that tomorrow. But anyway, there's the place, the endeavor, the person, the senses, and Krishna. Those are the 5 causes. I will explain that in depth tomorrow. Yeah. And then along with that, there are 3 psychological steps before you act. In other words, there's 5 factors to action. There's 3 psychological steps before you act: thinking, feeling, and willing. Krishna consciousness acts on the level of thinking, feeling, and willing to either stop us from doing something wrong, or to convince us to do something right. That's where Krishna consciousness, that's where this education actually becomes useful. Most people, first of all, they don't take into account the 5 factors. They might take into account 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but never 5. And number 2, they don't understand the 3 psychological states before action, and they don't have any process by which to halt those 3 processes that could lead to a wrong action. They don't have any way of controlling it, other than the police. Right? You know, we know that doesn't control anybody. So this is a science. It's a science of the person. There's a lot of science about radios and televisions and you know, internet and this and that, but not much science about the person. This goes deep into the science of the person. How to control your mind and senses. The mind is the major organ that's keeping us in the material world. To deal with the mind is very difficult. It's more difficult than controlling the raging wind. But it's possible. It's possible to control. Okay, any other question? Yes.
In the 4.41, you talked about doubts.
Yes.
So, is there a thing called good doubt and bad doubt?
Yes.
So, how do we discriminate?
Yeah. The way you discriminate is a good doubt is Arjuna. He has doubts, right? So he's addressing his doubts to his guru. He doesn't keep them a secret. He doesn't let them fester in his heart till it becomes resentment and hatred. You know? Huh? What did you say?
Is it to help us get closer to Krishna?
No. Yeah, you can have a doubt about the philosophy. Arjuna has a lot of doubts about the philosophy, right? He said, Krishna, you're being equivocal. I don't understand. First of all, you say you should engage in action, and now you're recommending kill people. But how can this be, pious? Yeah. So, he had doubts, but he addressed them to Krishna. Whereas a person who's nonsense, they have doubts. They don't ask any. First of all, they don't recognize any spiritual authority. They only recognize their own speculative authority. And therefore, those doubts become demons. And then there are the demons who purposely try and put doubts in the minds of the devotees so that they give up devotional service. Just like they say, oh, you shouldn't have Bhagavad Gita in the house. Then there'll be an argument in the family. Like that. There's so many doubts people have. So doubts are demons. Anything that takes you away from Krishna is a demon. It's a demoniac influence. And you can dispel all doubts by studying Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna tells Arjuna way at the end, he says, in the 18th chapter, he says, he says that under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. And the purport Prabhupada says, If one refuses to act under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting in that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord becomes glorious. So, and he says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So no conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So proper doubts are addressed to the spiritual master. Improper doubts are kept back in one's heart and discussed with mundane people for speculative theories, right? So those type of doubts will take you away from Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
In the beginning of Bhagavatam, that sages ask a question to the Goswami, and a description of what are considered good doubts and questions. So it says, Yat Krishna samprashno yen atma suprasidati. The perfect questions which arise from doubts are the ones that pleases one's self. The answers to those questions should lead to satisfaction of the self. That's that description in the beginning of Bhagavatam.
We got to be careful what pleases the self, right? What if it pleases me to do some nonsense? You know, then that wouldn't be very good. So yes, all right. The verse I was looking for was this. Kashchit agyana samoha pranastas te dhananjaya. O son of Prita, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? The Lord was acting as a spiritual master of Arjuna. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita, if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. So you see, Krishna was ready to explain the whole Bhagavad Gita again if Arjuna was not convinced or if he still had some doubts. So, yes, you can have an intellectual doubt and ask a submissive question or humbly ask a question to a bona fide spiritual authority, and that's part of the spiritual process. And the way to argue in spiritual circles is by asking a question submissively. That's the way you argue. You don't argue by, well, I don't agree with you. You know, I think what you said is nonsense. No, that's not an argument. You can argue by asking a question humbly. However, a doubt about Krishna consciousness or any thought that takes you away from Krishna, that is considered a demon in the mind. So this is the 4th chapter, 40th verse, where it says, but ignorant, faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So I already quoted this verse. And it says, only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, Doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation. One should therefore follow the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. So the doubts are demons. This is explained in 15th chapter, 19th verse. Let's take a look at that. Doubts are demons. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So if we have any doubt about Krishna or Krishna consciousness, then we should present that doubt to a bona fide authority and try and get it cleared up. Otherwise, we will become weakened in our devotional life and eventually leave Krishna consciousness. All you need is one doubt. That's enough. That you lose faith and you'll walk away. Okay, so we will stop right there and continue again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Actually, in the 8th chapter, 2nd verse, Prabhupada clearly says that Arjuna addresses the Lord as Madhusudana because Krishna once killed a demon named Madhu. Actually, these questions, which are of the nature of doubts, should not have arisen in the mind of Arjuna because Arjuna is a Krishna conscious devotee. Therefore, these doubts are like demons. So there's a difference between an intellectual doubt and a doubt about Krishna consciousness. Intellectual doubt can be dispelled easily by asking a question and getting a proper answer. A doubt about Krishna consciousness, on the other hand, unless we address it honestly and openly to a bona fide teacher, it will take us away from Krishna consciousness. Those type of doubts are purposely put into the mind of devotees by demons. Just like it says here, since Krishna is so expert in killing demons, Arjuna here addresses him as Madhusudana, so that Krishna might kill the demoniac doubts that arise in Arjuna's mind. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.